Welcome back, you guys, to the show. I'm so excited to welcome Eric Singer. He is a creative director and partner of Coupe Studios, audio and sound design. And I'm so excited to be here with you, Eric. This is going to be a really fun conversation about podcasting.
Yeah, me too. I think our perspectives are so different and so complementary and so important to each other that, I'm just really excited to share what we both have from our different perspectives with everybody who's watching and listening.
Yeah, me too. When I got introduced to you and I came into the studio and you told me about all the things that Coupe offers, I was like, what does it mean to do sound design? Like, I've run my podcast and my show for the last almost 9 years, completely raw without all this post-production and sound design. And you sent me a clip and I listened to it and I was like, what? I didn't know podcasts could be this. And like I shared with you earlier, it was like a massage for my ears. It sounded so beautiful. And so I think we should start off with just a short clip so the listeners and viewers can understand what I mean.
Yeah. So here's a clip from a show that we produced wherein I got to fulfill my lifelong dream almost of being an astronaut.
Roger, 0G, and I feel fine. Capsule is turning around.
I feel like $1 million. This is the greatest experience I've just remembered.
That was the sound of some of the first humans to ever experience weightlessness, early NASA astronauts. And this is the sound of people getting their first taste of weightlessness aboard a craft called G-Force One. And today, we're taking you inside that experience. I'm your host, Helen Gover.
So I would love to hear a little bit more about what you guys offer. I know that Coupe does so many things, and I've witnessed it in real time being at the studio. So let's dive into your world.
Yeah, so Coupe Studios has been around for 45 years, which is like 20 lifetimes in the world of entertainment. But I've been here for 20 years, and my job as creative director is just incredibly fun. It's just a lot of brainstorming, meeting with clients and partners, and essentially figuring out how to solve their business needs through audio, whether that's creating custom music for advertising. And then, we do a whole gamut of things for advertising. That's our bread and butter, although podcasts have become a very important part of our business. I would say they're definitely at the core of what we do. But where we started was creating scores for films and sound for advertising. So everything from custom music to voiceover and sound design and all those things. And I think that's really the reason why we approach podcasting the way that we do, because we have this 40 plus year history of creating cinematic sound, whether it's a documentary film or an action film or whatever. That's the way that we think about sound, is that it's a driver of emotion. And in the case of advertising, it's a driver of emotion that triggers consumer behavior. And so that's sort of the strategic lens that we look at podcasting through as well.
Yeah. So as you were saying that, I had goosebumps because I was thinking about it from the lens of watching a movie, right? And imagine if you watched movies without the sound, like without the music, where if there's a scary scene, it's like it gets you goosebumps, it makes you freak out, or the loving scenes and how that sets the tone. And I think that's actually a super underrated part of brand building, is tapping into every sense. And just from the lens of like the marketer of when we're bringing our projects into the world, it's like, how many senses can you get your consumer to tap into to create an immersive experience when they're not actually in a physical place experiencing it, right? Like they're listening to it or they're watching it. So how do you tap into these like super subconscious things that, like you said, is driving the buyer behavior?
Yeah. I mean, you couldn't have set that up better, because I am a huge data and science nerd. And so we get really deep into neuroscience when we are crafting audio. Sound affects us in a different way than visuals do. Sound goes right to the part of our brain that allows us to react instantly. Visuals take time to interpret, but sound, this goes all the way back to evolution. I mean, think about when our ancestors were living in the primordial jungle and you hear the break of a twig behind you. Oh, a predator is approaching.
Right.
So if you didn't react instantly to a sound input, you were out of the gene pool. So we're really hardwired for this instant reaction to sound. And this, you can look at it even from a developmental perspective, before we're even born, when we're in the womb, sound is our first exposure to the outside world. We hear the sound of our mother's voice. We hear her heartbeat. And not only do we hear things at that stage, but we already learn to assign meaning to them because of the neurotransmitters. When we hear our mother's heartbeat at a nice, even 60 beats per minute, we're assigning meaning to that means mom is calm and we're safe. When we hear an elevated heart rate or we hear loud voices of people arguing or something like that, we get hit with those neurotransmitters that trigger those other not so pleasant responses. So we're already assigning meaning to sound even before we're born. And that's really the root of why sound affects us so powerfully. And then beyond that, we can go into all sorts of things about how different musical qualities affect us. The most basic example being just everybody knows, a young child knows when they hear a major chord, oh, that sounds happy. A minor chord, that sounds sad. And then there's infinite other musical qualities that you can use to influence behavior or perception. You can use certain sonic qualities to make food taste more sweet or more bitter. There's all kinds of things that you can do. And obviously, like in a film, as you said, like driving emotion. And, there's this old saying that I love. I started my career in radio and this is where this quote comes from. Sound without video is radio. Video without sound is technical difficulties. It just doesn't work, without that piece of the puzzle. Video doesn't do much without the sound.
Yeah. Wow. I feel like you just made my brain explode a little in like the best way. Like I love learning on my own show about the industry that I'm in a different angle, right? And when you were talking about like the mother and like being in the womb, and it's like sound is actually just so primal. It's it's tied to our survival.
That's exactly right.
So when you were like, oh, it's an immediate trigger, it's like interesting.
Yeah.
If more marketers use sound in their marketing, I wonder how that would elicit a different response, whether it's like on a sales page or on your social media. Do you put music on your posts? Like I think about this through the lens of the marketer. It's like if I'm on my Instagram stories and I show a video of a beautiful sunrise, we get like amazing sunrises at my place. I always find a music, like a sound that is relevant to the experience. And I tell you not, like probably 30 people will respond to that and be like, oh my God, this is beautiful. Now, whether they're putting the sound on or not, if they do, they feel like they're with me.
Yeah.
And I think there's something, especially in the world of podcasting, like we are doing this to share information, but also to connect.
Yes.
And I think if we can create more connection through different senses like sound, then that gives you an upper edge that is definitely more work, of course, but it's like such a big payoff, especially if the neuroscience proves it. And just we're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Of course, we heard our mom's heartbeat. That's the first thing. You can't see anything. You can't smell. I don't know what else happens in there, but you can definitely hear what's going on.
Yeah. I think that's such a great insight. I think that example of your listeners or viewers feeling like they're right there with you, that's the perfect way to think about the power of podcasting. Audio is this immersive and very intimate medium. If people are listening with earbuds in, especially, like you're literally in their head, right? And that intimacy, the connection that your listeners have with you, audio is the best way to create that. And in order to do it effectively, I think you don't necessarily have to have highly polished audio. I think the reason that your audience connects so powerfully with you is because of the authenticity.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me is probably an overarching theme over this whole conversation. Is there is a spectrum from raw to extremely polished. But what has to maintain consistency throughout that entire spectrum is authenticity.
Yeah.
The fastest way to lose people is to be disingenuous or to feel like you're not being authentic. And I think so much of the power that podcasting has is when a host like you is real and raw, and however that might relate to the production value, whether you're doing 10 hours of editing or just posting it off the top of your head, what really matters is that you're real.
Yeah.
People know that.
Yeah, I think that intuitively I've recognized the power of that. And there's definitely been times where I've had a hard time showing up authentically or vulnerably because I'm going through something really challenging. And I don't even always have words for that. I think we can all relate to that when we're like highly sensitive and highly creative and highly aware. It's like this shitstorm that's like awesome at some points, but really dramatic at others. And you're like, what am I even feeling? How can I get on the mic and share?
Well, have you done episodes when you are in a place like that?
Yes.
And how have they gone over?
Okay, so this is actually wild. I was sharing the story with someone like a few days ago. So I started my podcast in 2018, and it started as a health and fitness podcast where I was teaching mostly women how to lose fat and get strong and fit mentally, physically. And so that happens. I was like crushing pull-ups. I was so strong. I was helping other people get strong, but I got so obsessed with it that I basically gave myself an eating disorder. Oof. And I was binge eating multiple times a week and then trying to restrict the food intake because I had a public persona. Like I was half naked on the internet in my sports bra and shorts, empowering people. But then behind the scenes, I was really struggling, and that wasn't how I started. And I didn't know how to get out of that. And I had so much like shame around that, of course. And so I remember there was a party I went to, and there was like a sheet cake. And for whatever reason, I was left alone with the sheet cake. I have no idea why. Just imagine me with a chocolate sheet cake, okay?
You haven't had a full meal in 2 months.
100%. Like it was cavewoman days. Like, no, I probably just ate. But I had been restricting myself so bad from anything that tasted good that I had moments alone with that cake. And I swear to you, I probably ate a third to half of that cake alone at this party. I don't know why no one was in the room, but they weren't. Now, obviously, if you eat half of a cake, you're going to feel physically awful. Yeah. But of course, mentally and emotionally, I was like, what the fuck did I just do? Like, I felt like something took over my body, and I didn't know what to do. And I didn't tell anyone because I was kind of scared. I was like, what did I just do? Like, why did that just happen? Yeah. And so I went home, and like the next week, I was like, I can't not talk about this on my show. Like, I know that other women are experiencing this, and men. Yeah. It's just not talked about.
Totally.
And part of the reason why I even started a show in the first place is to start to share some of these stories and just like let other people know they're not alone and connect with them. You know, we talked about connection, and podcasting is the most intimate platform, which is why I love it the most. And so I got on the mic. I remember I was shaking. I was literally shaking. I had my phone in my hand. I was recording the episode on my phone. I wasn't even on a mic, just into the voice notes. And I basically told everyone like what I had done. Yeah. And it was almost like a confessional. Yeah. And so I shared I shared that I ate this cake. And I was like, you guys, I don't have a solution for you right now, but I just want to let you know, if you're going through something like this, you are not alone. There's a lot of people that have, whether it's sheet cakes or other things, like it doesn't matter. This is a real thing, and I'm not the only person on planet Earth who's struggling with binge eating. And so I posted the episode. I threw my phone across the room. I was so terrified. I was like, I'm hiding forever. I'm never going back on the internet. I'm never posting another podcast. I'm done. Like I couldn't. And I remember just like crying in my bedroom alone, which I can laugh at now, but I was really in it. Yeah. And then the episode went live on that Tuesday, and I kid you not, I think I had about 5 to 6 women end up hiring me after that episode because they were like, thank you so much for sharing that story. I feel like I can actually trust you to help me get out of this. And I was so confused. I was like, what do you mean? I just ate a sheet cake. Why would you hire me to help you stop binge eating when I just did it? Like, what the fuck? But what it made me realize is like the power of courage in that vulnerability. Like, it takes a lot of courage to share the hard things you're going through or have gone through. But that was one of the first times I ever really shared like an emotionally charged moment where I wasn't on the other side yet. Like, I didn't have a solution yet. I just knew that the first solution was, well, I need to have compassion for myself, and shame can't exist in the light. Like, shame exists in the darkness. It's like the dark little crevice with the with the spider webs.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, fuck that. I'm not going to let that shame stop me and perpetuate this forever cycle. Like, binge eating is such a shame related thing. So anyways, it was received so well. People had so much respect for me. I ended up working and helping so many women break through their binge eating. And that actually changed the entire trajectory of my career at that time, because then I started helping women with binge eating and I pivoted out of fitness and into healing, which was a huge, like, that was so rewarding for me because it actually really mattered because I knew how much pain I was in previously. So yeah.
Wow. That's heavy stuff. And I think that's an incredibly powerful example of why authenticity is so important, regardless of how you're producing the show, regardless of what the show is about. I think particularly for, you know, the segment of your business that I know is very significant, where it's personal branding and it's one person operations, and those people, much like you, are being hired for whatever they're providing and what you provide based on who they are, establishing that trust. I mean, what's more important than trust in business? I mean, there's nothing, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I said this to a client yesterday who has been having a hard time with social media. And I was like, look, we're in a trust recession. There was a few year span where and it's still happening, where social media made people not trust people because there was a lot of just fake stuff going on.
How great my life is.
Yeah. Especially on platforms like Instagram, right? Or even LinkedIn. Like, hey, I got a new job. Like, there's actually a lack of connection-based content or like intimacy-based content. And so I said to her, I'm like, we actually need to rethink your content strategy to be like podcasting, where there's intimacy. And how do you create intimacy? Emotional vulnerability, courage, and a good story. Like, that's how we connect. And whether it's through the medium of podcasting or through social media, it's all the same. But without the intimacy, without letting yourself really, truly be seen, I don't think it works.
Yeah. Agreed.
I really don't, because there's so many businesses out there. Like, there's so many. Like, why hire you?
Yeah.
Well, they're going to relate to your story. We've historically marketing, it's like marketing is how you make people feel. And if you can help them feel seen and help them trust and help them have an awareness or a breakthrough or feel drawn to you, they're going to only feel drawn to you if you're actually being who you are.
Yeah.
Because that's resonance. And that probably goes back to science that you know more about than I do. If you have sound that's off, it's like dissonance, right? That it doesn't work.
Yes.
And it sounds awful. And it's like the same thing when you have a podcast host or guest that's not in their own resonance or authenticity. Even though they're saying something, the audience is hearing it and it's like, something's off. They might not consciously be saying that, but subconsciously they're like, something about this host or the guest or this person is off, which is why they aren't in trust.
Yeah.
So it's like, can you be who you are? I think that's the hardest thing ever. And it's like finding out who you are. That's like the spiritual journey of podcasting.
Yeah. And I think beyond personal vulnerability and authenticity, I know one of the pet peeves that you and I share is mismatching sponsors with podcasts.
Yes.
I mean, how awful is it when you hear a host of a show endorsing a product they clearly don't use or clearly don't believe in, I mean, it not only is it ineffective for that advertiser, but it crushes the credibility of that show, I think.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think the world of podcasting, like as we're kind of touching on it, I feel like one of the most important things is just brand reputation.
Yeah.
And it's such a sensitive thing because you really do have to do your due diligence as a podcast host and as a listener too, to like use discernment to be like, is this brand really aligned with the core values of the show? And I think a lot of people never set out with core values of a show because they don't start with the
That's a
creative
really
direction
important
and the
point. Yep.
brand. And it's like, you know, yeah, sure, you can start a show yourself. You can open up one of the many things and record a voice note and put it up there. But
Bam.
and which is what I did. I had to start messy, but now with this, what we're doing here, I had to sit down and make a game plan of like, what are
Yes.
the core values of the show and me as a host?
Yeah.
What do I actually give a shit about? What is the brand voice? What is the brand voice not?
Yeah.
And then when that's consistent, then all of the ads or sponsors or guests that you have on will be in resonance because it's like that's been defined in the first place.
Yeah.
You know?
Agreed. And I think there's a certain segment of podcasting that is rightfully dominated by big, interesting celebrity personalities, you know, thinking like a Dax Shepard, something like that, where that guy is so smart and so interesting and asks such good questions that I'll listen for an hour and a half. It's going to take me 3 or 4 days to get through an entire episode, but I'll listen to it. You know, Rick Rubin, there's, you know, people who can command an audience and are inherently interesting enough and are getting on guests who are inherently interesting enough, can get away with not necessarily doing the kind of work up front that you're describing, where you're strategizing. Who is this show for? What is the goal of this show? Who am I? You know, all this strategy that goes in at the top. Unless you're Dax Shepard or Rick
unless you're already
Rubin,
famous.
like you can't start a show and expect to be successful without knowing where you want to go.
Yeah. Like at this time.
Yeah.
I think maybe 5-10 years ago, sure. But now, I don't think you can.
Yeah. I mean,
I think you'll
millions and millions of shows out there. And, you know, discoverability obviously is a big thing. And that's where you come in, you know, and that's what makes our partnership together so powerful, is because we don't do anything in terms of marketing and promotion and making people more discoverable. All we focus on is the production piece. But I'm just amazed at what you're able to do for people who are working with you in terms of generating that visibility. And then that visibility, great. That's a prerequisite to have a great show. But then the other prerequisite is actually having thoughtful content, telling a great story so that people listen more than the first 2 minutes or more than the first episode, and they keep coming back for more. And I think that's where, to me, you know, I see, you know, I'm old. I'm 50 years old, and I grew up.
Are you?
Yeah.
You have such young energy. I love it so much.
A strict diet of drugs and alcohol. And
fun and creative direction.
Right.
And stress.
Right. Yeah. I don't work for a living, so that helps. But, you know, I tend to look at podcasts through what I came up on, which was radio shows, things like Radio Lab and now podcasts like 20,000 Hertz and other very highly produced, what we would have called 20 years ago, radio shows. And the other way that I tend to look at shows is, I'm a father of 3, I'm running a business. I have 0 time except for my 20-minute commute where I can actually consume a podcast. Maybe I get out and go for a walk at lunchtime, but that's it. Like, I've got a window of less than a half hour a day, and there are thousands of shows that I would love to be listening to. So I'm incredibly picky about what I'm willing to invest that time in. And so for me, I will not listen to a show that's not at least not poorly produced. It doesn't have to be highly polished,
Sure.
but it needs to sound good. So, there's sort of this baseline, like, yeah, voice memo a few years ago, totally acceptable. These days, probably not, right? So, I'm a little bit biased towards the more highly polished and highly edited shows. I mean, the clip we listened to from that 0G episode of Colorado Global Connections, that took probably close to 60 hours to produce a 25-minute show. And obviously not everybody can afford to spend that kind of time, and not every topic deserves that kind of time. But I think at the end of the day, the overarching principle that everyone doing a podcast needs to keep in mind is respecting your listener. And that might mean, if your audience is somebody like me, that means your episode should be 25 minutes or less. If your audience is someone else, then it doesn't necessarily mean that. But I think you really, as you say, you got to know who you're talking to and where you want to go, and respect the listener's time that they're investing and spending with you.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. I think that the more that I've been in the industry, both as a podcast host, a guest on so many shows, and then starting a podcast company last year, where I would say our like bread and butter really is the creative direction and the marketing. And I said this the other day, I'm like, I think I'm actually just like a talent manager, where I find these awesome humans who have great stories, great personality, and are here to build a brand around their voice. And which is so accurate, because I'm like, oh yeah, these people are all hilarious, or they have some sort of a sense of humor. They're entertaining, but they're also educators. They're doctors, or they have extensive study in whatever their discipline is. And so I think the other part of all of this is going into a show being like, what's the point of the show? Like, why are people actually going to listen to this? And I think a lot of times people don't give that enough thought with the right questions. And so, for example, we have clients that are mostly, let's say, personalities. They have a really magnetic charisma on camera, on the mic, and they have a great network. And so my approach to someone like them is, well, okay, they don't actually have necessarily the expertise or the credentials, let's say, or maybe even enough experience yet, but they're funny, they're entertaining, they have a network. So let's leverage that to grow the show.
Yeah.
Whereas somebody that's more like a researcher and maybe needs actually to just share their expertise and wants to build their business or their practice or whatever it is, it's like, okay, well, that person's strategy is going to be shorter form content, more value driven. I know what I'm doing. I know I can help you solve your problem. And let's get to the point. Like 30 minutes, 27 minutes is the average commute time. So let's keep it under 27.
Yeah.
And then there's a blend of kind of those two archetypes, I would say. That's like, we have the educator, the entertainer, and then the blend of the two.
Yeah.
And so I think it's really knowing who is the person, who is the host, and what's their strengths. Let's keep them in their strengths. And then what's actually the mission of the show? Do we want to just build the brand and like grow it and scale it and get partnerships and have monetization that way? Or do we want monetization through the company that the founder or the host of the show is running? Do we want to actually send business to the business, Yeah. So there's different ways to approach the show. And I work with people who don't have a business but want to build a brand as their name and what they're building. And then I also work with people who have a business and want to use their show to teach and grow their business. Yeah. So I think there's different approaches, and that will also help you respect your listener, because you know who you're talking to. Like the guy that's starting a show and he's in his 60s and he's retired and he's kind of speaking to mostly retired people or people who have exited companies and they have time to listen to a 2-hour show on whatever the hell. Great. You can do that. Yeah. But most people don't just have 2 hours to sit and watch this.
That sounds amazing though.
It sounds lovely. It does. It does. I am somebody who's like short episodes consistently. Yeah. I want to just get inspired. I want to get a nugget. I want to learn something. And then I want to move on with my life. And same as you, like I don't spend much time in the car. And if I'm not doing this, I'm working or sleeping or working out. Like
Yeah.
it's like, so I think, again, going back to the concept of respecting your listener is huge. And I think it's important for every podcast host and guest to be like, well, who's the audience?
Yep.
Like, truly.
Yep. Really understanding what you're trying to do. And I think another thing for newer people who are entering the space for the first time as a podcast host or a creator or whatever is how realistic is your plan for monetization? Like if you think you're going to start a new podcast that's not celebrity driven and you're going to make money from just the programmatic ads that one of the hosting companies is going to place on your show, good luck.
Yikes.
Like that's you got to reach tens of thousands of people to even remotely move the needle with that kind of monetization. And so, I think that's one of the reasons that we place a huge amount of emphasis not only on the production value, but that upfront work that I know you really focus on with your clients as well, where we got to understand who we're talking to, what our goal is, and then we need to develop a monetization plan based on that. And the pay per click on the advertising or getting paid per download of your show, that is not happening.
No, I think it's like the most stupid model.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, this is dumb.
It
Guys,
erodes your credibility.
Yeah.
And you're not going to make money on that model
I
until
know.
you reach millions of listeners. And so,
Yeah.
For us, it's before we'll even start working on a show, we got to have a clear path to monetization. And I think the most effective means of that are long-term sponsorships with a brand that you actually believe in and ideally use yourself.
Yeah.
And also having a plan in place for that discoverability. I'm as a guy who started in radio, I have been a very crusty old man about the idea of, we got to shoot video too, because I have never in my life watched a podcast on YouTube. But it can't be ignored because there are some people who do. And most importantly, as I've heard you talk to people about, it's the discoverability factor, right? Like YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world now, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I do think that even with being able to upload the video to Spotify, that I've had comments because I started posting video on Spotify, and people are like, "Oh my God, yes, video!" I think it's another form of intimacy. It's not even actually about the video; it's about intimacy.
Yeah,
and
they want to see who you are.
Like, oh, she's a real person. Like, cool. She looks like this. I feel like her, because we listen to people that are like us, whether we like to admit it or not.
Right.
Because we love to affirm our own self-identity and concept.
It's so true. I'm loath to admit it, but you're so right.
It's real. And I actually, this is an exercise that I've been trying to work through, is listening to people that I don't agree with, or listening to people that I that are not like me, and that kind of make me cringe. But I also know it's good to have different perspectives. And here also, as somebody who owns a podcast company, I'm like, okay, like I need to know what's going on in the landscape, of course. But I do think it's just one of those things. Like, it takes more effort to get ready in the morning. Like, it's annoying. I actually don't like it at all. I mean, I love it, but I hate the work required. Yeah. And I don't know. It's just, one day I'll have my own hair, makeup, stylist, everything all the time on set with me, everything. But right now I don't, and I have to do it. And
just send your AI version out there to do the
my cardboard cutout.
version. Yeah.
But it's extra. And I think it's kind of another barrier to entry. But I think that if we can simplify the process, and I mean, that's kind of what I'm in the process of doing right now with clients, is like, okay, how can we streamline the process of recording and getting you to look good on camera and get lighting? And even if you don't want to buy like a $5,000 camera, like what can we do instead?
Yeah.
We have iPhones. Like, iPhones are actually really high quality.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people grow very successful YouTube channels or video podcasts with an iPhone.
Absolutely.
So I think there's that fine line of, okay, we want it to look good, but we also don't need it to be the most highly produced thing ever. Again, it depends on your audience. It's like, who is listening? You know, for you, Coupe is doing ads and these really high level, highly produced sound things. I don't know how to use the words, but sound design and these episodes, that's a different target market than a personal brand-based show who's growing their name, their persona, their expertise, their thought leadership, their business. It's a different world. And
it is. And that's why I think our partnership is so powerful, because we don't know I don't even have Instagram. Like, I'm not on social media. I'm old and crusty, and like, we have zero expertise and frankly zero interest in that world. But it is so important, especially for people just entering the space, smaller companies or personal brands. Like, that's everything. Like that, no matter how many hours of sound design and custom music, and it can be the greatest production in the world, but without your piece, no one's going to hear it except whoever that person knows personally and sends it to.
Right. I agree. I think that, all the platforms, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, I think if you go on somebody's social media and their social media looks like somebody is just posting graphics from Canva or random internet images, the brand loses trust immediately. If there's no face, like, we need to have a face. I think that's, speaking of, we're going to talk about trends and stuff, but I think that the day or the age of the company without the founder face, or at least a partner face or somebody in the company face, the brand without the face is going to die.
Yeah.
Because we're in a trust recession. And so how do we do that? Well, photo, video, like, you need to be seen. I think it's a non-negotiable at this point. I have a lot of people that come to me and they're hiding behind graphics, or they're hiding behind photos of other people or other things, or they're hiding. I'm like, you can't hide anymore. Yeah. And it's time really for you to be seen and to be known. And we need to have a face and a voice to the brand. It's just going to build so much more, like, it's going to anchor the brand. Okay, this is a real person with a real service. I like them. So when I like people, I want to get to know them more. And when I get to know them more and I find out they have something I want to buy or I want to, do with them, I'm going to be much more likely to purchase from them.
Totally. And I think you're absolutely right, even in the case of bigger companies.
Yeah.
Who wants to give their money to some faceless corporate behemoth? Like, if you can give, look at the success of a company like Patagonia, where people feel a genuine connection with that brand because that brand has an authentic personality, an authentic mission that people feel very personally connected to. So I think regardless of whether you're a life coach or a multi-billion-dollar international company, I think you're spot on. Like, you've got to show people who you really are one way or another. And that, I think, extends even beyond, showing that visual aspect of it.
Well, it totally does, because again, if you respect yourself enough and value yourself and the company or the business or the brand enough, you will, of course, put time and effort and resources into making it sound good.
Yeah.
Because what's the point?
Right.
Like, if you're sharing all this valuable information and telling stories, like storytelling, then when I think about storytelling, I think about us sitting around the fire, it's cozy, and you're sharing your life experience and wisdom with me, or I'm sharing it with you. And we're connecting and we're bonding, and there's this shared, like, circular experience. And I'm like, okay, how do we recreate that on a podcast? Well, of course, tell stories and learn how to be a good storyteller. But then secondly, it has to sound, we have to hear each other.
Right.
If you're sitting around a fire and you can't hear the person that's talking, how can you connect?
Yeah.
There's automatically, I guess primally even now, a disconnect of I couldn't hear them, or they were mumbling. And we'll just use that as the fire analogy. Like, I think that's the same thing when you don't have good sound, or you don't have good post-production, and you don't have good audio.
Yeah.
It's like people can't listen because of what you shared from the neuroscience space is, well, if your audio sucks, people are like, I'm tapped out.
Yeah.
And I think we are impatient and have shorter attention spans than
No
ever.
doubt.
And we got to give them our best impression.
Totally. And that's another really great point, I think, that illustrates the power of podcasting in today's attention economy. Good luck if you're a company trying to get a potential customer to watch a 30-minute video or read a white paper that's going to take them 30 minutes. Like, no way.
Yeah.
But if you tell a good story, as you say, and it sounds good and it's authentic and all these other things that we've talked about, they'll listen to a 30-minute podcast and they'll subscribe and they'll keep coming back for more. I mean, what other medium can you get people to consume hours and hours of content that is essentially a business development tool? I mean, the first thing we always say to, especially to bigger companies who come to us and want to produce a podcast, is you understand this can't be a 30-minute commercial, right? Like, we have to create content that people actively want to consume. You cannot be hard selling. You cannot be talking about things that people don't care about. Every minute of that podcast needs to be valuable, even if it's just for entertainment value. Respect that listener and give them value every minute of your show.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the like entertainer educator thing. And I think for both of our clients, like, we are working with professionals, whatever that means, whether they're established big companies or thought leaders, rising speakers, the face of a brand, where they are taking their job and their work seriously, but they can have fun. And I think that when we think about, okay, well, how are their customers or clients acting? Like, what's their behavior? We would hope that because we're speaking to and with professionals, even though we don't have to act professional, but professionals, that I think using a platform like podcasting or YouTube, the long form content is speaking to the mature person, like the mature buyer, the mature listener, the person who can actually sit still for more than 2 seconds. Like, I mean, I am ADHD, so I can't even say anything on that. But it's really like, if you only have TikTok attention span, you're probably not going to be the buyer, But I think podcasting is a great medium for people who really value and respect the industry they're in, the work they're doing. And I think it's a missed opportunity if you don't have or aren't leveraging podcasting in your marketing strategy, whether you're a huge company, a solopreneur, a small business, whether you have your own show or are on other people's shows sharing your story. I think it's a really big missed opportunity. And I don't say this to like scare people, but I really have this intuitive knowing of like, if you're not doing this moving forward, you will be left behind. I think it's the only way to like survive is the intimacy of storytelling and podcasting. I feel that trust is eroding in the market. And well, how do we just show up as ourselves and be people you can get in person? But podcasting is like the next closest thing to feeling connected to the brand or the business.
I totally agree. I think it's becoming a must-have in the same way that 30 years ago, having a website was like, I don't know. Do I need a website? Like, yeah, you need a website.
Yes, you do.
So we talked a little bit about, I want to turn the tables on you and ask you a question on your own show.
I love it.
When someone approaches you, whether it's a personal brand or a bigger company, and they are expecting, whether it's instant monetization through programmatic advertising, or it's, I want to have 1 million listeners, how do you handle setting expectations with people about the unrealistic expectations of instant success and also the unrealistic expectations of how much work it requires before you put out an episode? What do you tell people?
Well, I think when people come to me expecting that, like instant monetization or instant growth or overnight success, I'm like, look, I can do everything in my power and give you all the tools, but I am also not Messiah. you know, like I'm not. And yes, we have had clients that have launched one episode and have just had the right partnerships and people where they're like, oh yeah, I think we're just about to land a $50,000 podcast sponsor with one episode.
Wow.
That is probably rare.
And when that does happen, I'm sure it's because you've invested a ton of time up front in helping them with their strategy and identifying who that monetization partner is and all of that.
Right. We already spent the last 3 to 4 months deep diving together in person or on calls, understanding actually the direction of the show, the visual assets, like everything, right? So yeah, that can happen. And I hope to keep repeating that for clients for sure. But also, it takes time, and podcasting is a long game. And so I do try to set low expectations with okay, there's also a lot of opportunity here. And so I think just naturally my personality, I'm like, I'm excited about this project and I wouldn't take on the client if I didn't believe in the message. But also don't have expectations, because that's going to set you up for disappointment. So we can anticipate, we can like set the intentions, we can do all our manifestation practices, you know, like, and we can put in the fucking work to do it.
Most importantly.
And yeah, it's like, well, there's a lot of things outside of our control in life generally, but especially in the podcasting world, you just don't know. But I will do my best to like understand, how can we position the show? How can we find aligned partnerships or sponsors? Who do I know that can help me help you?
Yeah.
Like I can do everything in my control, and the host can do a great job at telling the stories and sharing the genius and their experiences, but we don't know.
Yeah.
So I always try to set the tone of, look, I'm going to do everything in my power. Here's the track record. Here's the results I've helped clients achieve. And also every single show has its own like spirit, you know, and its own timeline.
Yeah.
And I think that's, it's kind of like podcasting mirrors life, because we can want to get to the ends, whatever that means. Like I want to have 1 million downloads, but it's like, but do you like why, you know, is that just like a number?
What is your actual goal?
Right. Because I thought that's what I wanted. I was like, oh, I want to cross the $1 million download mark. And then I realized I actually don't care that much about that metric. I want to be able to use my podcast to help people learn how to be good hosts and storytellers and podcasters and all of that in the creative direction, and then help people build podcasts.
Yeah.
Like that's what I care about. It's actually what happens after the podcast that I care about. I don't care about the vanity metrics.
Totally.
And I kind of had to learn that the hard way when I saw a friend of mine cross like 2 million downloads, and I was like, damn, what the fuck, you know? But I realized, wait, that's actually not my goal. Like, yes, I'm excited for that day, but that metric doesn't mean anything.
Right.
Except a number.
Completely. And I mean, none of us can take on unlimited numbers of clients. Like having 1 million irrelevant listeners who either don't want to work with us or we don't want to work with them doesn't help anyone with anything.
Right.
If you have 50 listeners and 10 of those are people that either you can just help or who actually want to engage with your business, I'd call that a success.
100%. I want to give a short story to this, because I had a client come to me. This was like 5 years ago, and she was a piano teacher. Okay. And she had 0 following, 0 online presence. She started a page, started an email list. She had 100 people on her list. Okay. After we worked together, she was making $30,000 a month as a online piano teacher.
Wow.
And because her audience was actually aligned.
Right.
And I think people forget. They think more followers equals more money or more monetization.
Yeah.
From the brand perspective, sure, maybe you won't get a brand partnership if you only have an audience of 100. But if you have even an audience of a few thousand at least, but they're aligned, they're engaged, and they want to buy into the brand in some way, that is 100 times better than an audience of 100K who think you're cool, but will never actually move forward with you in a business capacity.
Yeah,
so it's like
more.
It kind of hits the ego a little, but I think you just have to really focus on the numbers that matter and like the metrics that matter. And that way, when people do find your show or find your page or find your brand, they're like, oh, you're for me.
Yeah.
You're for me. Because you're speaking to me.
Right.
And so it's like speak to one person, and that's going to make everything else better and easier. And so
totally, the numbers aren't everything. This reminds me. So, last night watching a football game, we're hit constantly with these pharmaceutical ads, right?
Yes.
And some of them are for very rare diseases, So you're doing a broadcast commercial that's reaching millions of people, but 0.5% of those people watching actually even know what that disease is.
Yeah.
So you're spending, let's say, $1 million on a 60-second commercial to produce it, to pay for the airtime, all of that stuff. And less than 0.5% of the people who see it are relevant. Well, how about you make a podcast that is done in partnership with the support groups of people who are actually suffering from this disease? So there's your audience already. Yep. You don't even have to do the heavy lifting of building a following. You partner with those organizations, you produce a podcast, and sure, it's not going to get in front of 8 million people like your TV commercial did, but 100% of the people who are listening are actually going to find it relevant. Yeah. And those are the people you want to reach.
Yeah. Like that's actual true marketing strategy. Yeah. And I think it's something that's really underrated for podcasts because we go into it being like, okay, I want to blow up this thing. It's like, well, what if there's an easier way? I'm all about doing less and having more impact and making more and growing more. Like, what's the least amount of work we can do to get the biggest result, whatever the result is that you want.
Yep.
Maybe because I'm lazy, but no,
it's like efficiency. I mean, you got to respect your client's budget.
100%. And it is ultimate efficiency. I'm like, why are we on 8 different platforms if your ideal listener is only on LinkedIn? Yep. It doesn't make sense. Make it make sense. So we need to custom every strategy to the person and the host and where we're going, like whether it's the business or going for partnerships, like what's the point, you know? And I think we just need to ask ourselves that question more and more and more because we can lose that.
Totally.
We'll wrap it.
So I hope that helps explain what sound design and custom music actually mean, what they feel like. And, the way I like to describe it is that it's where emotion meets experience. So rather than tell you what to do or think, let's feel it,
Yeah.
So.
Well, yeah. I mean, I just think we could talk about this forever.
But we respect our listeners' time.
Yes, we do. We love you guys. We love you. But I think we'll do more of these. And I want to have you come back on the show and just keep sharing as the podcast industry keeps evolving and growing and like what we're seeing working and what we're seeing not working and how.
Thank you.
Yeah. How everyone can grow.
I would love to do that. Every time we have a conversation, whether it's recorded or not, I learn so much from you. So thanks so much for having me on.
Yeah, I feel the same. And I'm really excited for everyone to share their thoughts and comments, whether it's on YouTube or Spotify. Leave your comments and we appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you, Eric.